Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate you, your time, and your support. In today's video, I want to share with you the process that I take to tattoo more so traditional style tattoos. I'm going to share with you every step of the way from beginning to end, so by the end of this video, you can click away knowing or being more acquainted with the process of traditional style tattoos. Should you have any questions at any point throughout this video, I'm going to encourage you to drop a comment down below. Rest assured, I'm going to do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. I do also have social medias under the same name as my YouTube. I have Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, all under Daniel Yuck. I would appreciate the support over there as well. With that being said, let's get right on into this. When it comes to traditional style tattoos, it's very important to note that the application that I'm going to share with you here in this video is not by any means the right way, only way to go about applying traditional style tattoos. This is more so the way that I feel most comfortable doing so. I want to start this demonstration here by listing off the gear that I'm going to be using in case you would like to match it up as close as you'd like on your end. I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate and other affiliate links for you in the description below, so you can check out the gear featured here in this video. Starting with the fake skin, I'm going to be using Reelskin fake skin, which I have a small piece of right here. I did use green card stencil applicant to apply this design. I used Spirit stencil paper along with the MHT thermal printer to print this design. I'm also going to be using the Mast Archer 2 tattoo machine along with a small assortment of needles ranging from a TNT 18 round shader for this thicker outline. I'm probably going to go with this 18 round liner. I forgot the brand off the top, but I will list the links for you below. I'm probably going to be using a WJX for the color blending right here. And if need be, I also have another 18 round liner from TNT just in case I need to pack tighter areas right here. Again, I'm going to list everything that I'm doing along the way, so be sure to stick around for that. I'm going to be using dynamic black tattooing ink for the outline along with mummy color tattooing ink. I'm probably going to go with the light red for these inner petals right here, and then I'm going to use a variation of lime green to nuclear green, which is also from Mummy, as you see right here, for these leaves. I feel that would be a pretty cool approach, so I'm going to go about it that way. Are you wanting to develop your tattooing skill sets? Now you can practice and develop anytime, any place with an assortment of tattooing workbooks that I've created. With these assorted tattooing workbooks, we can practice our basic lining all the way to advanced lining. We can practice shading, shading placement, dot work, textures, and more. All we are going to need is a tattoo workbook of mine. We can use a pencil, pen. We can even use a tattoo machine with a ballpoint cartridge to develop our tattooing abilities further. That means that we don't need tattoo ink, we don't need napkins or petroleum jelly to get to practicing. Simply open one of my tattooing workbooks and get going. It really is that easy. You can get your hands on one of my developmental tattooing assorted workbooks by simply clicking the links in my description or in the pinned comment section below, or navigating on over to Amazon.com, typing in Daniel Yuck, and you'll see all of the assorted tattoo workbooks that I've created come up. If you have an Amazon account, be sure to follow my Amazon author page as well, as I would greatly appreciate your support. Should you have any questions at all, drop them in the comment section down below. I will do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. With that being said, let's get right back into this video. When it comes to traditional style tattoos, from my experience, what I've seen is they tend to have a more bolder appearance to them. All of the line weights within most traditional style tattoos are thicker in line weight as opposed to dainty or fine line. However, there can be, more thinner line weight details within a traditional design. However, majority of line weights are always on the bolder end as opposed to the thinner end. Not only that, another thing that I've noticed about traditional designs is that the colors are always typically vibrant and pop. Another thing that I've learned about traditional style designs is that they are more on the simplistic and over detailed and advanced side, and that is one of my personal favorite things about traditional designs, is that they are nice, clean. If applied correctly, they can come out nice, clean, solid, saturated, and consistent with the colors. They can pop as well, so they can really provide that wow factor while still being simple, which is one of my favorite aspects about traditional designs. When it comes to traditional designs, try to keep them simple, bold, and use vibrant colors along the way. I'm also going to be using ink ease to clean up the excess here to help keep my fake skin clean along the way as best I can. Where I am going to begin is by identifying my point A and B, and then from there I'm going to apply the line using the T TNT 18 round shader to the best of my ability. I'm going to start with 6.5 volts and kind of just move at a slower pace and then go from there. If I want to speed it up, I'll bump it up to 7, move a little bit quicker. So first things first is I'm going to moisturize the area. I'm going to make sure that I have adequate ink flow here, enough to make it from A to B. This is a bit of a longer line, so I want to make sure that I'm going to make it from A to B swiftly here without losing ink, because my technical application could still be correct, but if I don't have adequate ink flow, then my lines can still be off. So I'm going to identify my A, begin with a slight taper, and then make it to B as best as I can. If you need to taper out in between this line and then kind of taper back in and do it in 2 motions, I encourage you to do so. If you can't pull it in one line, I encourage you not to try that and force it. I'm going to repeat that same process on this side. Now, the process that I'm going through with here in kind of a step-by-step manner is a very similar process that I take with you on Patreon. So if you're looking for this sort of guidance and approach, check out my Patreon. I will also leave links for you in the description below. You can also ask me as many questions as you need along the way. So if you're just starting out and you're needing tattoo support and guidance, you can go ahead and ask me questions that are tailored to your wants and needs as the artist via Patreon. You would just sign up for the follow along tier, and that's included within the follow along tier. You can also submit tattoo images as well, and I would give you feedback if that's something that you're looking for. So you can see I did that with both of these lines right here. Now for me, I feel the next best thing would be to do, or the next best move would be to apply this line right here. I'm going to keep the same steady approach. I'm just going to make sure that I'm comfortable. Identify my A point. I'm just moving at a bit of a slower pace because I'm running at 6.5 volts. There we go. I don't really want to wipe too much yet, as fake skin tends to kind of lose the ink over every wipe little by little. So I just want to be mindful of that. Now, when it comes to any tattoo, really, I like to start from the bottom and kind of work my way on up. I'm going to next identify my A point, which is going to be this, and then work my way on over to B, and I can continue working the rest of the design. Now from here, what I want to do is I'm going to dab up these areas to kind of clean up as much as I can. And then I'm going to continue to apply this design. I'm going to work in this sort of manner, so kind of from this way on up that way. I feel like if we just keep it at a consistent and steady pace, we'll be fine. Make sure that I have moisturizer in the area. Always make sure you have adequate ink flow, because like I said earlier, your technical application and everything could be aligned. However, if your ink flow isn't there, then your line can't be saturated because there's nothing to saturate. And I'm going to taper out over here. And then from here, we're going to taper in this way. And then bring it around. Just going to remain at a slow, steady, consistent pace because I am running at a lower voltage. So I need to give the needle enough time to do its job there. And then one more right here. With the taper out as well. So some of these areas are going to be a little bit more challenging than others because there is a natural kind of flap going on there, but that's perfectly fine. We're just going to kind of work with what we have here. And then from here I'm going to apply this petal right here. So I got to figure out how I can do this while remaining on camera and not blurring it out. There we go. Very challenging right here in this area. You can see minor inconsistencies. There we go. And I'm just going to continue that process, working these leaves and then kind of going that way. Still running here at 6.5 volts. I'm not trying to do too much wiping as of now, but we can kind of wipe away to see what we're working with if need be. So the next part that I'm going to do is this area. I want to do this line and then we'll work on that over here. With the taper out there. Kind of the same thing right here. And this fake skin is really challenging me. It's really making the process a little bit more complicated because of all of the kind of flapping and moving, which I feel is perfectly fine. I'm just going to have to kind of roll with those punches and learn as I go. So you can see the entire outline is going to be outlined with the 18 round shader. If you only have like an 11 round shader, 14 round shader available to you, I would just encourage you to use what you have. And then from here I can move on to this inner petal right here. And then from there we can kind of just keep working our way that way. So I'm going to start right here. There we go. And I'm going to repeat that process with this leaf up here. Always make sure that I have adequate ink flow. Taper out at the end there. And then we're going to repeat that process with the remaining petals and leaves there. So according to the Mast Archer, I've been continuously running the machine. We're about 10 minutes in. So from here I'm going to continue building. I'm going to do this petal right here. The idea is to find where I'm comfortable before I commit to my A and B point. And then from here, I feel more comfortable bringing the line this way. The reason why I chose to work at a lower voltage is because I can move slower, which would minimize my mistakes and wobbles. So that's the reason why I'm going with a lower voltage. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish this last area or this last leaf, and then we can do that center, or you can do the center and then the leaf, however you would like to go about it. That's really gonna be up to you. I just wanna make sure that I'm comfortable here. Taper out at the end, and then repeat that over here. And then one last line this way. Taper in this way. And bring it around that way like so. Now from here what we can do is the center area, and then we can get everything cleaned up. So moving on over to the center area here, and this one's really going to challenge us because it has to be a perfect circle or very close to it. So I'm just going to do the best of my ability by starting with the taper in and kind of just keep the slow pace that I've been working at. I also have a video available where I create a stencil and we just practice circles over and over and over. If you head over to my YouTube channel and go to the video section, type in tattooing circles, you'll see that video should pop right on up. And then next I'm going to do this inner area right here. I feel like it was these moments right here that are the reasons why I chose to go with a slower voltage. And then for this inner area, I'm just going to go ahead and color this in, or pack this in black here, as I don't see a color going over and standing out on the stencil well. So we'll just saturate this here. There we go. Now from here I want to determine if these details need to go with this line weight or if I need to switch out to another line weight. I think that I'm ready to switch out to a different line weight, and I could possibly just double up this area right here as opposed to the 18 round shader right here. So we've got our first wipe down completed and all of the lines are looking nice, clean, solid, and consistent. What I would like to do now is switch on over to my next line weight. The same line weight that I'm going to use to line these other lines within the leaves is going to be the same line weight that I'm going to use to do these inner areas right here. Now for that, I'm going to go with this bug pin 18 round liner, and I'm going to go ahead and get to lining and adding all the details, still using the dynamic black. I'm still going to run at 6.5 volts. If I need to, I can take it down to, yes, 5 volts or maybe even just 6 volts even. We'll see as we go. We'll go ahead and try some areas and see how it feels here. Always mindful of how much ink I have in my tube. I felt like going with a heavier round liner would still be a better way to go for this one. I'm just trying different line weights. I typically do it with a thinner line weight, but I want to see the results for this, and I'm liking the results. I do like sort of a heavier round liner as well. It complements the round shaders. And then even with this detailed area right here, for example, taper out, and then do it on this side as well, and taper out, just like that. And then I can repeat the process with this side of the leaf, make sure that I have adequate ink flow, and then we can continue. I'm gonna adjust myself to see if I'm comfortable. So this process is going to be pretty straightforward, and I'm going to repeat this kind of peaceful workflow throughout the entire design, so that way I get everything as clean and consistent as I possibly can. At the end of the day, for me, the final read of the design is of the utmost importance, so therefore I'm going to take my time with every single move that I make. We'll go ahead and add to these petals here. Just identify your point A and B. And give the needle enough time to do its job there. Same thing over here on this side. I'm not necessarily thinking about trying to be perfect. I actually stay away from thinking that way. What I am thinking is my A and B. I see the design here, I see the line. I know how the needle applies the ink, so therefore I'm more focused on the technical aspect of the application, so therefore it really doesn't leave me any space to kind of be nervous or anything like that, because I'm practicing the technical application. I'm working on fake skin. If I'm doing anything wrong, I can kind of acknowledge it along the way. If I see any apparent wobbles, and I can kind of figure out solutions to issues that I'm facing along the way. I'm just going to try to stay at a slow and steady, consistent manner here. Just have some more lines up top here, and then I feel we can kind of move on to the next phase of this design. So that's where I begin. I begin with the black there. So I'm going to start by depositing all of the lines and outlining everything. If I want to add any sort of shading, I can. But for this design specific, I'm not going to add any shading. Since I'm trying to keep this design more on the simplistic end, I'm going to stay with an easier approach. So those that choose to follow along can kind of follow along with ease, and then we can do more advanced follow alongs within the Patreon. You can kind of hear by the sound too that every single line that I'm creating is neighboring and consistent to the one next to it. And then we'll just finish these last lines right here. So now that I've completed this outline here, I'm going to get it all cleaned up, and then now I feel I'm ready to switch on over to a different needle and begin applying the ink, the colored ink rather. Now for me, I kind of want to work from the darker colors on up to the lighter colors. So for example, I could do the red, or I can go ahead and do the green on the leaves. So you kind of want to pinpoint your darker colors and figure out which one's the darkest color on your end, and then begin with applying those first. Now the reason is because we're working on fake skin. Let's say if I start with like the teal and then I add the red, then the chances of me tainting the teal color are going to be very likely. So we're definitely going to want to start with the darker colors and then build our way on up to the lighter colors. For me, I think that I'm going to be better off applying the red first, and then from there I can go on to the green. However, if you want to apply the green first, you can go ahead and do so. It's going to be really to each their own. I'm going to apply the red in a meticulous manner here, which is going to call for me to do a little bit of freehanding, so to speak. I'm still going to be running at 6.5 volts. I've switched to the TNT 14 round liner. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of line the outer edge right here with red, as you see me doing, all the way around as best as I can. And I'm going to repeat that all 4 times around. I could have marked this out in the stencil, which would probably have been the best way to go about it. However, I feel like it gives us a little challenge here. Kind of pushes the boundaries and the envelopes of what we're comfortable with. And all I'm going to do is just begin to kind of establish these boundaries right here, kind of outline these areas as best I can, making sure I don't leave any skin gap right here in between. And then I'm going to fill these areas in. And then all I'm going to do the entire way is every time I need to kind of pick up and clean my surface or my canvas area, I'm just going to dab to pick up the excess there. Always make sure that we have adequate ink flow. And then I'm going to put a little bit of ink ease there and kind of just dab, and then when I dab I slightly turn a little bit to kind of pick up there, and then I kind of look at what I feel needs to be touched up, and I just kind of keep it going all throughout. So I'm going to repeat this process on the remaining petals as well. It's going to be this exact same process. The only thing that's changing is my area that I'm tattooing and the ink color. Wipe a little bit that way. I could even use a bigger needle if I'd like maybe a 9-round mag to fill everything in. Let's say if I outline it with the 14-round liner, and then I line everything, fill it all in with the mag of some sort. That's cool too, especially if you want to cut time down. I think though, for the sake of packing in a more saturated and consistent manner, probably going with a mag would always be ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish out and establish these boundaries, and then from there we may switch over to a different needle and then pack everything in like so. So from here, just going to bring it around. As best as I can. I also felt like starting with the red would be ideal, simply because I was going to be doing a lot of this sort of lining, and if I had the green here, then the splatter could have tainted the green there. Now I'm not going for absolute perfection. However, what I am doing is I'm trying to be as consistent as I can to the neighboring side. If it's not the same, I'm perfectly okay with that. But I do want to get them as close as I can possibly get them, and put my best foot front with that there. Very nice. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this last area up here. Always make sure that you have adequate ink flow. Okay, so from here I want to switch on over to a different needle size, just so that way I can cover more ground and kind of do this in a more timelier manner. So next I'm moving on over to a quadrant here, and this is going to be a 7-round mag quadrant, and I'm just going to use that to fill in all of this red. I don't really want to wipe too much in these surrounding areas, as I want to try and keep my canvas as clean as I can. So be mindful of your wipe. If you see your wipe has a lot of red spots on it, kind of change it out. Still running at the same voltage. And you can also just have done, you can kind of line everything with a mag if you felt comfortable to do so. I just wanted to be more precise, so I did it with a round liner. So I'm starting from one side and I work my way on over to the other, and that's how I kind of ensure consistency. Then we're going to want to repeat that all the way around. There we go. So that's looking great. Always make sure that we have adequate ink flow. I can't really exhaust that enough here. Felt like switching to the mag was a good way to go. If you feel comfortable establishing those boundaries with a mag, by all means, but since this is kind of more tailored to entry level, I went ahead and I went about it that way, which is more of a foolproof way to ensure a cleaner boundary. So from here, what I can do now is begin to place some ink ease ointment down and clean this up as best I can. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be mindful of my wipe, and every time I clean, I want to make sure that I'm cleaning with a new part of my wipe just to prevent any sort of smearing and smudging with red ink around. I feel like that's probably the best way to go about it, especially when we're dealing with fake skin, as we want to have a good presentation when we're done with all of this work. So that's how I'm going to go about cleaning that up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a new napkin and then continue with this process, but adding the next color, which is going to be the darker green. We really want to be meticulous with our wipes and how we're going about it. So this is just the approach that I'm taking. Again, it's not by any means right or wrong. I'm switching over to a WJX 15 round mag so that way I can cover more ground. And I'm going to be using Mummy. I use Mummy lipstick red, or light red rather. Here is going to be the light green. However, I feel like it's more on the darker end. With the WJX 15 round mag, what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin applying the darker green to this area. And I want it to kind of have a gradual fade on out. And then I'm going to use the nuclear green, the lighter green, and then come back into this leaf here. So you can see in order to do that, I'm using the side of it and just layering on the green like so. I am getting a little bit of splashing here on the red, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to dab up the green, no wiping at all, and then I'm going to make sure with the clean side of my napkin, wipe away like so. And you still want to be careful because you can see that we're still getting red on the leaves from the red that we just applied. So we got to be careful with staining. And we're just going to move meticulously as best as we can. There we go. And then the next thing that we're going to do is again be real mindful with our dab, and then apply a little bit of ointment, and then with the clean side of my napkin, wipe away to see the results, to see what I need to do next. I want to leave a little bit of area up here on the leaf on both sides so that way I can put the nuclear green there. And this is pretty much going to be the same process for the other side. Just going to take my time and continue with the application here. If we are experiencing any sort of like tainting or contamination of our colors, that's fine. Kind of just still move on with the technical application, and then we can kind of adjust next time we try this follow along. Just using the very tips of my needles here. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin bringing the green out this way with a little bit of cross hatching going into what I've already done. And then the same thing, I want to make sure that I have a clean side of my napkin. I dab so that way I don't get any green on that red. So you can see as we start adding more colors, the process becomes a little bit more complicated, especially if we want a clean read. I'm going to wipe away softly and then kind of look at the results. I feel like that's actually really nice there. I'm just going to add a little bit more saturation right here in this area. And then we can move on to the next. There we go. Always make sure that you're mindful of your wipe and make sure that it's clean, so that way we're just not tainting anything. So I feel like that's really nice. From here, what I want to do is I'm going to actually apply a little bit more right here. I'm a little bit picky when it comes to symmetry, so I'm just trying to get it as accurate as I can. Okay, so now I'm going to move on over to the remaining leaves and repeat that process. After, we can go back with the nuclear green and then apply that to the remaining part of the leaves. Let's repeat this process here. I always want to be mindful of when I wipe, make sure not to put pressure into these red petals and then bring that red into the green. So every petal that I work on, I'm going to kind of make it a priority to remember that. And then from here, I'm going to begin with applying this darker green as we did on the other one. And then over here, we're going to repeat that process. And you kind of want to take a mental note of how you're applying the shading on each side, so that way you can do it the same as you can on both ends. And then I'm going to again dab, and then we're going to want to put a little bit of ointment. Always make sure that your wipe is clean before you commit to the wipe. Wipe away, see what you're working with, and then kind of continue the process throughout. So that one came out lovely. I'm going to go ahead and move on over to this one over here and repeat that process. Now what I'm going to do, since I am working on fake skin, I'm going to place this over the red right here, just so that way I can kind of work on this area a little bit more freely here. Let's go ahead and move that on over. And then I'm going to wipe away like so. And then you artistically, it's up to us to determine if we like the shading or if we need to kind of adjust a little bit more to kind of accommodate for the other side. That is 110% up to us as the artist. And then the same thing with the other side. And kind of approach it the same way here. And then I'm going to again make sure that I'm dabbing with a clean part of my napkin. I am using a softer amount of pressure here just to avoid as much splattering as I can onto the red. As you can see, it is splattering on there a bit. I'm going to apply some of the ointment with a clean side. Just kindly wipe. I feel if I wipe soft enough, I can kind of just get the surface layers of that green off, which I was successful doing. From here I can continue on over to these top areas and then kind of continue on over with the nuclear green. Now if you're experiencing any sort of contamination that you're not happy with, I wouldn't really fixate on it too much. Kind of just keep pushing through. Take this course or this follow along for the technical application and then kind of apply that to the next tattoo. I would encourage you not to get discouraged. Just stick with the process. This is actually really tedious to try to get a clean read at the end of the design, especially when we're working on fake skin. Human skin is going to be a lot more different. We'll get there when we get there. For now, just try to stay calm and patient with the process. And then I'm just going to use sort of whip motions on out this way, as you see me doing here. Like so. You can see I'm getting splatting over here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. However, when we're trying to keep our canvas clean, it could potentially stain it in ways we don't want. And then I'm going to place a little bit of ointment. Make sure with the clean side of my wipe, I'm wiping away. And you can see slow and steady is working for me here. So I'm just going to kind of continue this sort of approach. Same thing on this side. I'm running at 5.5 volts. And then I'm gonna dab right there to remove some of the excess. Make sure that I have, with a clean wipe, a good placement here, and then repeat the process as we did on the other side. To keep it clean and consistent. There we go. And then I'm going to wipe away and away from the existing red that's there. And again, it is more of a tedious process. However, when we're able to take images and look at the design and kind of add it to our portfolio, it is more rewarding, I feel. So from here, you can kind of look at everything. If you're not happy with something, then go back and correct it. Always just kind of remember the fundamentals that you're working with. I'm actually just going to straighten this out right here. There we go. And then we're just going to add to these last two that are right there, and then we can go on over to the nuclear green. I do also feel it's important to note that the nuclear green is 110% subjective. That's not something that you have to add. You can even leave the natural skin tone showing there that we see here, and that'll kind of still reflect traditional. That's going to be up to you. I just feel like the nuclear green will make the leaves pop a little bit more. And then we're just going to repeat that process as we've been doing. Make sure I dab. Always before I place down my wipe, make sure that I have a clean part of it. I think that it's just really the little things like that, all the details, just mindful of our little actions and conductivity. That really helps tremendously in our workflow, the more mindful that we are. And then I'm just going to kind of add some ointment all to this area because I want to remove the excess here. I'm going to wipe away like so. And then one more leaf here. I feel like the nuclear green will be a bit more easier to work with. We'll see as we get there. Make sure that I have a clean side of my wipe before I place it down. There we go. So from here, what I'm ready to do is apply ointment, kind of do my final wipes to get it all nice and cleaned up. We can switch on over to the nuclear green ink. So now we're gonna work on the nuclear green. We're just gonna repeat that same process, but essentially in reverse. So what I'm gonna wanna do is, I'm still using a WJX 15 round mag. What I'm going to do is apply the ink the same way, but kind of blending in to the existing darker green here. Just going to take my time with this process and just work it in. We're almost done with the design, but that doesn't mean that we can't drop the ball still. So you always really want to just take your time when applying any tattoo, doesn't matter how small or big. I'm going to do a little bit of cross hatching here to saturate more. And then from here I'm going to dab. And wipe away. You can see I have my fake skin stained right there. Kind of looks like that's in there. We'll just kind of leave that as is and then worry about that later. I feel as long as it's not on the actual design that we're working on, we're perfectly fine. So from here, I'm going to repeat that process over here. You can kind of see it's the same process, but kind of just in reverse, going into the existing dark green. And then I'm going to be wiping away, as you see me doing here. I'm going to repeat this process with all of the neighboring leaves here, one by one, until we're done here. I'll kind of continue with this area over here. I'm going to move at a slow and steady pace as I don't want to drop the ball. I understand that I'm getting really close to the finish line here, so I feel like it's going to be super easy to drop the ball. So at any point throughout the session, it's still totally possible to drop the ball, which is why I feel like it's important to keep that steady, consistent pace. Same thing with over here. I do like the way that the nuclear green complements the darker green. Then we're just going to go ahead and kind of continue that process as mentioned throughout. Same thing over here. Make sure that the part that I'm going to dab with is clean, and then I can continue. Still with that steady, mindful approach. And then from here, I'm going to continue to this top area. You can put ointment and wipe away to see your results if you need to, but everything is coming out great so far. I'm going to switch on out to a new napkin so that way I have a fresh napkin to work the rest of this tattoo here. And then we're just going to continue applying it the same way we would. So you can see I saturate this area and the area coming, and then taper in, fade it into the area that's already existing. That's how I'm blending these two colors together. I also have a full in-depth video on color blending available on my channel. There we go. And then we're going to move on over to this area over here. There we go, and then I'm gonna finish out that last leaf and we can call it a session. Now, if you're still with me around now, I'm genuinely grateful and appreciative for your support. If you're liking this sort of one-on-one, step-by-step approach, check out my Patreon, as I do offer many more follow-alongs there. Not only that, you gain access to these stencils as you did here. On top of that, you're able to get one-on-one tattoo support because you can message me on Patreon and basically get all the information that you're going to need at the beginning of your journey answered directly from me, as Patreon is my priority platform that I prioritize over most platforms. So comments on my YouTube channel can go untouched for years, where Patreon, you're guaranteed a response back. So that's another aspect about the tier that you may benefit from. Not only that, what is cool about the Patreon tier is you do get the step-by-step follow-alongs. You get to message me with questions or comments that you may have, and you also get to submit your tattoo work for feedback. So that way you can kind of pinpoint your trouble areas and work on those along the way. So there's multiple benefits that you can gain from becoming a Patreon. However, this is the end of this design right here. Now from here, if I wanted, I could even go above and beyond and add teal. I can go ahead and put teal within these areas that have the negative skin space. That's going to be 110% to each their own and artistic preference. Here is a top view of the final results. All in all, I do feel like everything came out nice, clean, solid, and consistent. Did make minor mistakes along the way, but that's what these follow-alongs are for, is so that we can progress, pinpoint our problem areas, and develop along the way. Now, that would be it for this one right here. Should you have any questions at all, I'm going to encourage you to drop a comment down below. Rest assured, I'm going to do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I'm going to be bringing more videos like this for you all. I do also have social medias under the same name as my YouTube channel. I have Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, all under Daniel Yuck. I would appreciate the support over there as well. With that being said, I appreciate your time and I thank you for watching. You have a great day. Are you needing or wanting tattoo guidance? What about 4K high quality step-by-step follow-along tattoo sessions? Or maybe one-on-one tattoo support to get answers to your questions that are specifically tailored to your wants and needs as the artist? You can now become a Patreon, where you will gain access to high quality 4K exclusive step-by-step follow-along tattoo sessions. I will be tattooing with you in a one-on-one step-by-step manner, where I will be explaining what I am doing and why every step of the way. I will also be doing this in a high quality 4K format for your optimal viewing experience. On top of the one-on-one support and on top of the step-by-step tattoo session guidance, you will also gain access to exclusive tattoo stencils that you can download and place on your end to further develop your skill sets. I will leave a link for you in the description or in the pinned comment section below, or you can head on over to patreon.com/Daniel Yuck. When you become a Patreon, you will be getting one-on-one support where you can ask me as many questions as you'd like that are specifically tailored to your wants and needs as the artist. artist. You will gain access to exclusive tattoo stencils that you can download and practice on your end. You'll also gain access to exclusive high quality 4K footage where I walk you through each and every tattoo session in a one-on-one step-by-step manner where I explain all the what's and why's along the way. Become a Patreon today. Thank you for your support in advance. I greatly appreciate you.